Hey guys, today I'm turning my carport into a screened-in porch. Let's just jump into this. The plan here is really simple. I have a support post. This is structural, can't touch it. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drop a laser line here and reframe here so I can put in a door, a couple more windows that are exact same size as the ones out front, and then I'm gonna put the vinyl siding on here so that it looks like an extension of the house from the street. That increases the curb appeal, and that makes this house look absolutely massive. It also adds 10 feet to this living space area here, which makes it functional. Now it'll be big enough that you can actually invite some friends over and have some fun enjoying the cool summer nights. Well, so here we are in Florida, and I brought a bucket of hand tools and my favorite drill from DeWalt, right? But I didn't bring all of my power tools. So part of the budget for this project is purchasing tools. This makes it very real for any of you homeowners out there who are starting from scratch considering these projects. I went over to Harbor Freight to buy some of the cheapest tools in town because I've been hearing in the comments section for 7 years, guys, go to Harbor Freight, the tools are great. And I have no experience to argue with that. So I decided to buy some Harbor Front tools. I got a $109 10-inch chop saw, and I got a corded grinder for like 40 bucks. Now listen, not a bad gig, right? We're gonna use these tools to be able to get all of this work done. Now, so since we're gonna be building our wall here, we wanna have it look pretty from the inside, let's say. So we're using a white siding and white aluminum extrusion. So we're using helicopters. Seriously, guys? We will be using white aluminum extrusion. This original 3-inch post here, they come every 8 feet, and they're structure. They're what's carrying the roof load. So we can't lose these, but what we can do, we can paint them white. So we are going to paint this one white. We are going to remove all the other brown accessories, and we'll set them up to paint them in a paint station. But since I can't remove this post, I have to paint it in place. So we're going to just cover up and protect the ceiling from a little bit of overspray here. And then I'm going to get my paint can out and I'm going to spray paint the post. So what I'll do is I'll take out all the other framing, then I'm going to spray the post, and then we're going to drop a line. Let's do this. The assembly here is really quite simple. There's L brackets with self-tapping screws, and then there's a 2-inch screw holding this bar to the 3-inch post. 50 years later, it still comes out. This one is not playing nice. You can see that with this drill, because it's in a tight space, I have them on an angle, which means these old rusty heads, I'm gonna just strip them every time. So I'm putting in a bit extension so that I can straighten that out a little bit more. Hopefully that'll reduce or maybe even eliminate any more problems. Oh yeah. Nice. And again, these tracks, they may be salvageable, but the brackets and the screws, no matter what I do with the tracks, I'm gonna buy new ones. I'm not gonna try to paint all my screws and brackets. Now, the reason I'm being so careful with this is solid aluminum extrusion, which means it can be painted. It also means that this little track here is designed for a screen with a spline, just like a screen door or a screen window, okay? So you can actually build and configure your own screen porch with this product. 8-foot post runs about 25 bucks. If I can't clean it up and paint it cost-effective wise, then I'll replace it, because for 25 bucks, it might be better to work with a brand new one. We're gonna try to save this product if we can. I mean, after all, once you throw it in the garbage, it's not aluminum anymore. It's just landfill. Still gonna run some dust here. Give this a quick scuff. Now, obviously that doesn't have to be perfect, because we are gonna come back with some of those little rectangle white trims to finish framing this out, if the other ones don't paint up. But honestly, whew, I need to attach one post to this to get started. Gotta love trim clad, eh? This spray can version claims to dry in 15 minutes, which is why I'm using it. It's not the most cost-effective way to paint. But if I like the finished look, I'll go pick up a mini roller and the roll-on version, and we'll hit the rest of the metal. All right, now we'll let that dry. While we're waiting for that to dry, we'll grab the laser level. We'll start marking out the rest of the wall.
You want to do 5 guys?
5 guys is fine, sure. Okay, here we go.
Do you want a cheeseburger, fries, and Coke?
No, no cheese.
Okay. Bacon?
No, just burger. All right, so here we are. Here's my new white extruded aluminum. If you're going to be using screening product, then this is where the spline goes. So make sure it's facing the right direction. Because I'm adding siding here, I'm going to make this invisible by facing it towards the siding. We're going to screw this right to the existing post. Now, up here, in order to identify my line, I want to try to get it in the middle. All right? So I'm going to mark both sides. Here's my mark. That represents the outside. So here's a trick so that you can figure out where the line should go. Nothing is square, okay? It's impossible to know. But you do have a roof that has ceiling panels and they have lines. If you build your wall in line with a ceiling panel, which is about as close to square as you're going to find around here, then at least visually there's nothing else in this space to tell you if you're square or not. So having that line up is going to be paramount. So what we're going to do is drop our laser line. Because I'm adding siding and trim to the front side, I'm going to add 1.5 inches, which is the distance from the middle of that groove to the front of where I want my post. Want to leave a little of this profile showing. Okay, that's it. And yeah, that is going to work out really well. Or do I want to go flush off the back and then my siding finishes? I like that better. I'm actually going to change my mind. I'm going to go flush off the back corner so that my siding finishes off this corner. I like that. So my gap now is exactly 1 inch from here to the front. Well, that's a lot of marks. 1 inch is the number. Let's do this thing here. All right, we're just going to come over here, throw it into that crack across the room, and I'm just going to keep adjusting my location here until it's in the gap. That's close. There we go. I'm right in my gap, and all I have to do now, remove all of this, and then just put some marks on here. We know we're going to be to here, plus 1 inch. Okay. I'm going to add my inch. Now I'm going to take my laser the other direction so I can mark my wall. Because our challenge here is, this takes forever. There we go. So here's our siding. Behind the siding, just like in our window video, and if you haven't seen it, we'll put a link in the video description because we replaced the 5 windows in the front of the house. That was awesome. Behind the siding, there is another building facade, a weatherproof layer that has also got an aluminum face on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut through the siding here. Okay? This is my red line. There we go. I'm going to get my saw out and I'm going to cut all the way through this. I'm going to install a vinyl siding inside corner. If this is where this facade finishes, it's important for us to know how this is going to work. Let's take a look at this profile real quick while we're on it. Okay, this is an inside corner. All right, and if you take a look at this really quick, you can see that this is the thickness of the siding, and then that's the thickness. There's a gap difference. So if I'm finishing here, right, I can align this corner up with the cut. Then I have to actually cut my siding open back here. All right. That way, I have to add myself that extra 3/8 of an inch for this profile so that I can actually finish it and be in the right location, okay? So, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna trace out my line, I'm gonna add the 3/8 and then we're gonna cut it. Okay, here we go. Here's our laser line, okay? And just to make this visibly easy we're gonna go like that. But remember, my profile needs an extra 3/8. And there's a little mercy. And in the south, the heat is going to make this expand. So since the trim requires a 1/4, instead of going 3/8, let's add a whole 1/2 inch. Let's really double down on the forgiveness factor because we don't want to have our siding buckling when it gets hot, okay? So here's our new line, and we're going to go like this, just identify it. All right, here we go, loving that. Okay, and we got to draw this all the way down or we're going to be completely lost when it's time to cut this open. There we go. All right. Now for cutting this siding, we're going to use a grinder. This is a continuous rim blade for ceramic or porcelain, okay? It's about 20 bucks. Yeah, it's great. It'll cut through this by burning through the vinyl. There are no teeth, okay? It's a diamond bit for cutting through stone, but on skin it's actually quite safe. So this is how I roll. And I'm not safety stupid, I'm safety second. So, here we go. That was interesting. Now, if you're a fan of the channel, you guys know, you always think end from the beginning, okay? You need to have the plan to finish. It's one thing to cut the wall open, but look at this siding goes to where the old wall was, and then it turns back into the old original facade from the 70s. Now, I have a J-trim there, okay, that it's going to be exposed. But instead of taking all of this off and redoing all the siding to make it perfect, because it's just a Florida room, we're going to add another J-trim and extend that siding, finish the rest of that room off so it looks very intentional. Because right now, it looks like a patchwork quilt. I'm not a big fan. So, I'm also going to need a piece of J-trim on the other side here. Okay, so let's say, and I'm using this because this is not going to be visible as my marking line. I put the post on my line where the post is going to go. I want to put J-trim over here as well. So, I don't want to cut nice and tight. There's no room for the J-trim to go. I'm going to cut there. All right, so we have to do a second line now. So I'm going to cut here to there and here nice and thick like. I'm going to move my post over. Bam. There's my line. Okay, and then we can lift it up here. Get that right in there. All right, we'll cut that out completely. And then we'll be able to get our trims in and then we can install our post. All right, let's do this. Coming off again. Well, that's what you get for 35 bucks, eh? But you know what? Did the job. Oh, that's that little bit of foam insulation again, eh? Yeah, that's not of any value here. Now we want to identify if there's any nailing surface for the siding that actually is near this area that prevents me from pulling it apart. I need to get about 1.5 inches in. Ah, here we go. Well, I'll be. That is going to work out really beautiful. Whew, so what I need for my inside corner is a measurement from existing to existing because we're going to match up the siding lines and then do a different kind of skirt to go to the bottom. 94 inches. 94. Brilliant. Perfect every time. Do I need to say it? Now, it's just a matter of getting all this in behind. And yep, I know it's a different color. We've been through this. We're going to be painting all of the existing siding. Okay. This is just about applying pressure and intentionally warping the shape of the trim and then releasing. Got to sandwich it in between the siding and that insulation layer. There we go. Okay, that's trim number 1. Let's confirm. Yep, just enough room. We need a J-trim, 94 inches. For the other side. And we're going to do the same thing. Make sure we don't have any screws in the way. Well, we're either really lucky or whoever installed that siding didn't add a lot of screws. I think it's the latter. All right. Whew. Okay, moment of truth. There we go. That's perfect tie-in. Now all I gotta do is cut a post the actual height, and then I can screw that to the existing facade in the wall. We are in business. Okay, the height that we want to go to, we're just going to cut this right to the ceiling and leave a little bit hair shy. We can always use a little bit of white silicone, close in the gaps. It's going to be difficult to get all the angles here perfect. 105.5. All right. Okay. There's our mark. Okay. Most table saws have the same thing. They're about 3 inches off the ground. So you cut a couple of 2x4s and you can block them up just to hold everything nice and level. Let's just get this cut. Carbide blade, aluminum, always wins. Nice and slow. Take out our temporary support, put in our actual height here. All right, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pre-drill 3 holes with a 1/8 bit, just on the front, just so that I don't have so much difficulty tying my 3-inch screws in. Well, you know what? No reason to work above my head, eh? Just for good measure. When you use a laser level to do your framing and make all your marks, and then you cut accordingly, you don't even need to use one of these because everything is always level. There's just no option. So, using the laser to mark it out and then cutting on your line eliminates the need to be using this as you move along. Just thought I'd show you. It is level. Here we go with our screw. Number 2 and number 3. Now the metal is 2 inches, the screw is 3. There's a thin aluminum facade, and then in some cases even structure. But the aluminum facade on this building is tightened down with screws every 16 inches. So you can see my metal being concave there, under pressure. That's not going anywhere, okay? And for what we're doing, we're just building a facade wall. It's not structural, it's like an interior wall. And that's more than enough. Okay, now, we need to do the other side, and we got to get one cut up into the ceiling. Once we have the outside frame, we'll drop a couple more posts. We'll start sticking in doors and windows. Now we're going to dry fit it, and if it fits nice, we'll pre-drill some holes, and we'll stick it in. Am I flush? Okay, I got a screw head there. Come on. Pain in the ass. All right. Oh yeah, I got screw holes. Now you can see I've got these bolt heads. They're actually in my way. So this is the front. I'm making contact right here. I'm making contact underneath. Underneath is buried, so I can cut it out of the way. This will be covered in siding. I can cut that away. So what I want to do is I want to cut through here and through here up to this point only. So the inside stays looking clean. A little tricky, but and come at it from the other side here. Okay. Perfect. Now, we pre-drill. All right. So let's just go through this. We're going to try to mimic what we see here. The thought is the door should be in the middle of our wall. And then each side we're going to have a 30 by 53 window. And the pieces on the sides are roughly 42 to 48 inches. If we can identify the middle, and then we'll measure out from there to put both of our posts for the door, then it'll be easy to fill in the framing. To do that, we realize that we have this door frame. It's like a patio door. And these screws need to go into actual framing material. Since our posts are 2-inch wide, it should not be an issue. So we'll take the actual thickness of the door, which is plus some hardware 36. We're going to give ourselves a little bit of mercy because we have so much ability to screw. We're going to go with 36.5 as our hole. Okay, so we'll keep that in mind. Do some quick measurements here. On a 124, the center line is 62. Okay, so our center line is 62. This little spot right here. And then we want to go 36.5, which is here. Half of that is 18.25. Put that out on the mark. And our posts are roughly here and here. We don't know exactly where the posts line up. What we're going to do is pull out our laser again, drop that line from the edge of the header, and trace that line down here. Just play around with this for a couple seconds. Well, that is pretty much perfect right there. This represents the front and then the interior, and that's my right angle. And you can hold your hand here and you can see the line is right here. Okay, that's my post. Now to install these two posts, I can just measure off that framing there, 80.25, roughly level. And then I'm going to measure the back side. Okay, that's roughly level. And I'm getting a measurement to about the middle of the post. I'm going to cut my post off, lay it here, and then trace the angle. And I'm going to put a level on it and make a mark. That doesn't look too bloody level to me. Does that look level to you?
The floor and then the...
Oh, I know.
And the ship.
All right, so here we are. We're going to cut that angle on it. Should be at 7 degrees. Yeah, that actually worked. I know this is good. Okay, I'm gonna make that mark. Okay, I'm gonna use the self-tapping screws here now to put on that L bracket on the mark. This is how easy this is. Now, one of the other tricks is, because we're going with a 36.5 inch hole, I can create a header that's 36.5 and use it as a spacer. So now I can set my next pipe on this corner, have this as a spacer installed, know exactly where my line is. That is going to make my life easy. 36.5, right? Now, this is an awesome construction style. I'm really loving it. Now we got to get measurement from the ground to where the header should go. Okay. .101. Here's my measurement to the point of contact. Line that. Wow. What in the hell happened here? Matt?
Yeah.
This doesn't work if you don't anchor the first post. All right. All right, so what we're going to use is a 3/16 Tapcon screw. This is it. It's white coated, okay? And it has the T25 bit. We got a pre-drill into the concrete. I picked up this $60 Craftsman hammer drill. I wasn't sure if it was the cheapest on the market, but at 60 bucks for the cord. I've used this before in our How to Build a Basement Subfloor series, and I just loved it. Simple as going to hammer. I marked my 2 spots. I'm going to pre-drill the holes. Right? It's perfect every time. In addition, because it is a smaller head, I'm using a big flat washer on it just to make sure that we get really good contact. Get this on that corner location right there. And then use the self-tapping screw. There, now she's anchored. Now we'll anchor this one. Now, because my floor has got a slope to it, and I've measured the height for this bar with a little extra room, I want to confirm my install. So we're going to set this door in place. Yeah, it definitely is on a slope. Okay, I have got a nice bit of a gap back here. Things are squared off. Lots of room for my door install. Now, that's confirmed. Secure the header in the location that I marked, and then I'll attach the base with the tap cons. I like that. Now I'm going to be building a skirt that goes from here to the floor. It's going to be basically vertical pieces of soffit, and it's going to be just a smooth flat soffit inside of J-trim. But we'll add that after the fact. What we want to do now is think about the end from the beginning here. So that here is going to be my first course of siding. Okay? Now, where do we want our window to start? It's 53 inches tall, so it's about that tall, that window. Would it make sense if the top of the window was around the same part as the top of the door? That's the question. You don't want it higher than the door, that'll look stupid. This gives at least a couple of courses of siding underneath before the window breaks into it. I think I like that. And if it's just a little bit shorter, that's fine too. So, in my mind, I'm like 2 pieces of siding is 4 pieces. If that's where my window starts, look for something horizontal. That's roughly level. Here's designing on the fly for you. That gets too tall, right? So I've got to make sure that I'm measuring off of this. We're going to put a crossbar for the top of the window the same as the top of the door. So 53 inches from here is here. That's exact. We don't want to go with exact, we want a little bit of wiggle. So throw an extra ½ an inch in. That'll represent my window. Same here, we'll go 53.5 for my window. Here's a trick to confirm that this is all working because everything I'm measuring off is on level. I'm going to drop a laser line on both of these and then measure up to my mark and see if they're the same. 6. That works. So now we know when I put my framing in, straight across the header, off these marks and then down, my windows can sit right on top of that. I can install them level. Everything from here on in goes really smooth and simple. Now this is as simple as just cutting posts for the inside measurement, adding the brackets and then screwing it together. 41 5/8. This is all getting covered in siding, so let's not be afraid to use this as our template. 41.5. Well, that's remarkably symmetrical. Not bad being out 1/8 of an inch over 12 feet, eh? This one should be 41.5, give or take. 41.5. That's how you know you're level. Oh my goodness. 41 5/8. Bam. 2 and 2. So now we're into production mode. my gap is a little bit bigger than I want it to be. I'm gonna need some kind of a shim down here. So I've got my hole a little bit bigger than I wanted to. Probably should have had this bar down a little bit more, but my screw hole here on the top of this fin is right near the edge. So I'm gonna shove a knife under each side of this window after I put it in and get that height established. And that'll become my process for the other window as well. Really, it's as simple as coming over here, splitting the difference with the hole, making it look pretty. And then I'm gonna lift one side, drop it on my knife, lift the other side, drop it on my knife. There we go. Come back around the front, toss a couple screws in here to hold it still. Okay, now it's not going anywhere. All right, now we can see this taking shape, right? And what we really need, now that we're looking at this, is this was good for support for the window, but when I'm putting on my door and then my siding, I need something behind here so that I can attach my siding, okay? Otherwise, everything's gonna be just floating behind the window, which isn't ideal. I wanna address something. I get a lot of questions about this. I understand the desire to wanna over-engineer everything when you're building, but if you're gonna be practical and you're gonna save your money, you gotta just understand the limitation you need to engineer too. So right now, this window, it's not going anywhere, all right? We're not creating a waterproofing system or a weatherproofing system. It's an outdoor 3-season room, basically. It's a concrete floor that's sloped away from the building. So if water penetrates this area, that's fine. The other wall is gonna be a screen porch, for Pete's sake, all right? We're just creating a facade so that from the street, it looks like it's an addition on the house. And it's a little bit of privacy from all of the people walking up and down when you're having time alone. So there really is no reason to over-engineer here. Siding is gonna go behind. This is a brick mold, it's an extension. Okay, we're gonna have a J-trim here. We're gonna install all the siding. We're gonna attach it at the top so it's not gonna be able to pull apart. We're gonna show you all these tips and tricks. But you don't wanna start spending $300 in aluminum framing to add a stick every 12 inches and frame up the sides and all. It's okay, it's just siding, it's just a facade. It's gonna hold together just fine, all right? So we're gonna call this side done. What I am gonna do is I'm gonna add one more stick right here underneath the middle to the ground, and it's not to carry the weight of the window, it's so that the siding has actually got some stability because you don't wanna go fill in a 42-inch gap with nothing in behind it, all right? I might even go with 2, I'm not even sure at this point, but I think 1 is gonna be plenty. If I put the other window in first, it makes it very difficult to get this door out. Okay. So, because of the slope, because of the way this door is made, it comes in completely encased in a frame. So I want the frame on the ground on one side, right? And we're gonna throw a screw in that right away. Now, what I wanna do is I wanna lift this side of the door until it's in a level position. Because right now it's sitting on this concrete and it's twisted in the frame. So we're gonna throw a laser level on it. Let's have a look. See how wide it opens up. Okay, goes from 1/4 inch to a full inch. I think what I'm gonna do, just so that everybody else can see it on camera, because my green laser died today. All right, get an idea how bad that slope is, right? We're going to lift it until it looks like it's level. And that looks pretty good. All right, I'm gonna throw in a screw and then double check it. It's a half. Yeah, I lifted it up a little bit too much. And that's okay. So what we're gonna do now is take this one out. There, that is much better. Now it's just a matter of filling in all the rest of the locations. I think this rail's installed higher than the other one. All right, so what I'm doing here, guys, is I'm just taking my window. I got it sitting in place, and I'm double checking my height. So I'm taking a 2x2 aluminum bar, set it across the tops. That all looks pretty darn consistent to me. At the end of the day, we're finishing with vinyl. Vinyl trim, vinyl siding. If you try to drive yourself crazy and make everything exactly perfect, you will do that exactly, drive yourself crazy. And then you're gonna make a mistake. Like walk away without putting screws in the window. And then it'll fall on your head. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go and put it in place from here. What I wanna do, for the sake of symmetry, is measure from the fin to something that's easy, like the frame of that door is 8 inches. Okay? So I'm gonna go from the door frame to the fin. I'm looking for 8 inches. For the sake of symmetry. If I can hold it in there, that'd be really nice, wouldn't it? Pretty retarded here today. Okay. Hup. I'm vertically challenged. Okay. All right, still have a couple more steps. We'll have one more vertical piece here for some rigidity to all of our siding products. And then we're going to install our starter strip, do the first couple rows of vinyl, add some U-channels. We're going to add the last couple pieces of trim and throw in a few pieces of soffit for you so you understand all the process. Okay, so because we're on a slope, we just cut it and then slide it until it's stiff. Boom. Underneath there. And we can use that to square everything off. I'm gonna add my holes. All right. Okay, so what we're gonna do right now is I'm gonna just give you a couple of tips. It's kind of like a crash course, beginner's course for doing siding. Just a couple of things to understand the process. Again, I said it in the video, we did the windows out front, and if you haven't seen that, check it out. There's a lot to learn about siding, and I have a complete video on how to do that. We did our 1880 farmhouse from top to bottom, 2.5 stories. That's the one to learn how to do this properly. Here's the cheat. This is the metal track. Okay, this is what starts all the horizontal pieces. So from the end to what I'm going to call the end, because we're going to put another piece of trim right here, okay? I'm going to mark that. That's the actual end. Now, I have to have something to fasten, so I'm going to take a little bit off. All right, I'm going to use these monster cutters because they are amazing. This is my starting strip. Very important that this thing goes in perfectly level, all the way across the whole building, all right? The way we achieve that is this. Understanding that the vinyl siding caps underneath here, and we want it to finish in exactly the same place that this one does, okay? So I'm gonna put this down at the same edge as this corner, which is a little higher than this, and that'll give me the perfect location. So all of our horizontal lines should line up. I'm gonna make a mark right here, okay? That's the top. We use our laser. We draw a horizontal line. This represents level. My line is right here, as soon as I get out of the way. And I can measure down from where the laser line is to the black line. And we're gonna go exactly 6 inches. So now what I do is I mark exactly 6 inches down from that laser. That's where the top of my metal goes, all the way across the whole building. Okay? And that is how you level off your first row in the house. The more powerful the laser, the darker it is outside, the better result you're gonna get. But here, watch this. I can even rotate it and send the stronger strength over here, okay? And as long as I'm not sitting in the way, there it is, boom. Okay, I'll come over here now. I'll get the last one on, 6 inches from here, double check. Okay, there's my mark. that is how we do this. Whenever you're building anything over a long stretch, drop a laser line. It doesn't have to be where the mark is, okay? And then just create a measurement and you can duplicate that all over across the room. That'll save your bacon any day of the week. Now all we have to do is install this piece, and I can finish showing you how to build it all right here, and I don't have to go all the way across because I know I can catch up on the other side. And then I'll show you a trick for how to get it above the windows and doors and have it perfectly level when you get to the other end. I'm gonna go all the way to the left. But remember, this is Florida and things expand and contract. So I'm gonna split this gap in half, leave room for some expansion, and add a screw in the middle. That's my spot, that's my spot. That's just absolutely brilliant. And again, here, that doesn't really have a place to attach to. That's okay, we're gonna be all right. We need to get some J-trims now. Now, before we can do any building, we have to add all of our J-trims. And this is the end from the beginning, same. We're gonna do all upside the door, right to the top of this door here. We're gonna go 82 inches. Come on, bugger tape. Why am I using this one? I hate this tape. I had some good ones here. Now, the easiest way to work with this stuff is not to measure it and then cut. It's to just get it close. Okay, so I need 82. So what I do is I just get it close. Cut it long on purpose. Okay, because this is something that you won't go crazy working with. You don't want a 12-foot piece of material around here. Our goal is to not cover up these screw holes or this material. We want to go up to it. We want to go to the height of the door. And because we're working above our head, we can't see what the height of that door is. We're going to take a marker on the top of this door, okay? Knowing that whenever you do that, you're always going to be a little long. So the camera can see this. There's my mark. I'm going to make it a little bit short on purpose. Okay? Cut the front side and the back side, and then you just fold it over. Then you cut the balance. There we go. Now this should be perfect. All right, there we go. Now we're going to put this on with a few of these screws. What I'm doing is I'm actually putting the screw in that track right there. But because it's 3/4 of an inch thick, it has no problem finding that gap. And no problem finding a place to secure inside the back of the gap. And now we have the end of the siding sorted out. Once we got our starter strip, we've got this channel, we got this channel, we got that channel. We're good to go with our first piece of siding. How exciting. All right, here we go. Oi. We're gonna measure inside to inside, which basically is here. And then we're gonna take off a 1/4 inch for expansion contraction. So my actual measurement is gonna be 42.5 in this situation. Okay, we're gonna cut 2 of them. We're gonna do it like this. Now, when we're going from inside a trim to inside a trim, we always measure on the body of the siding. Okay, if you're connecting a joint, you always measure from this because you always overlap a joint. That's for another day. We're going 42.5, which is right here. One quick little mark is all we need, just so that you can see the visual. I'm gonna use my square, mark this off. All right, now I'm gonna use this rigid foam. Plywood is good. A 2x10 works really nice. Grinder. All right, this is why we use the continuous rim diamond blade for tile, because it cuts and melts at the same time, but it doesn't create any issues, right? Your backer is gonna be great. Let's cut another one. Let's show you how this installs. Okay, so you can see this little piece that juts out actually is going to lock right here. And good siding has holes in the bottom. And these are drainage holes, okay? So water that gets in behind runs down and can still escape. That's important because siding is not perfect at keeping water out. It actually is really poor at that because the wind can cause it to move around. Now, it's not going to lock in place but it gives it resistance. It can only go so high. So what we're gonna do is we use that starter track as a way of setting our height. And we're gonna install the screw right here. We're gonna take a little bit off so it has some movement. Very important. If it doesn't move, you're screwing the siding to the post frame. You're not hanging it. Hanging siding can grow. It can expand and contract. So always make sure you leave a little bit of a gap. We're gonna do the same thing to the other side with the intention, tight, and back it off a little bit. Make sure it can move around. It's a great system. The other side can just float. It doesn't matter. The next piece, obviously we're gonna have an issue, right? So what we're gonna do is get it all the way to the side. All right, and get underneath. Understand, maybe you can see it better from this side, but this is actually like a cap, okay? And the depth here is right to this point in the trim. So I've got a good 1/2 inch to play with here. So when I'm marking, I can look at the face, come down here, give myself something in the middle, all right? So that most of this material goes behind the window, but I'm not jammed in, all right? I'm also not making any allowance for expansion and contraction there. I want to split the difference. There we go. Now, see that? That's too exposed. So we're going to redo this. Okay. Now we got a location for our cut. We got to pick the height. This is going to lock underneath here. Okay? And the same thing, this track underneath here goes to that point. So that's the height, right on the dent. Okay? So we're going to cut there. We got our lines. And again, this grinder is the greatest tool. All right, and don't be afraid of making marks on these ribs because the next piece is always going to overlap it and cover it, all right? Let's get underneath that, and inside of that. Okay, beautiful. So now we have to lock it in. That's as easy as pushing it and having room. Okay, you see that didn't lock? I don't have enough room to lift it properly. Here's a mistake that you're gonna make. It's better to make it by cutting it too short than too long. So we didn't go deep enough to make enough room to lock. So. Sounds funny, doesn't it? It's a little bit unnerving, isn't it? I'm like, I don't want to trust it with my eyeballs. Okay, come on, baby. Let's get in here. There we go. Oh, it's so much better to do this on a warm day than a cold one. Here we go. Now, let's see if we got room to lock it. You'll hear it lock. There we go. Yeah, there's no more movement there. And I push down, it won't disengage. That's how you know. Whew. Okay, to be sure, we have the luxury. This is just because I don't trust my grinder here. Using a new tool for the first time, I'm not going to trust it with my eyeballs. All right. We can actually attach the siding to the fin just to give it all some stability and rigidity. Okay. This is where the production element comes in. We want to do a bunch of pieces, and if we built this right, they should all be about the same height, same length, sorry. So we're looking at giving it a little bit of room and a little bit of room. 8 inches is perfect, 8 inches is perfect. Okay, now each piece of siding goes from rib to the bottom, so 9 inches. So let's see how many pieces we need. 9 goes into 47, 5 times. We'll do 5 times 8, and then this one is 5 inch. Love making things square. So 5 pieces at 8 and 5 pieces, yeah, 5 pieces at 8 and 5 pieces at 5. Wow, let's get to work. What I'm going to do is show you how to install on each side of the window and then connect, okay, to make sure it's all level. with the next piece. This is the trick, so don't go away. Here we go. And I apologize for making this so easy. You ever played Plinko? Oh, just make sure they're facing the right way. Right, lock it in. Now this has got all kinds of flexibility here, right? They're all locked together. So what we do is we don't add any fasteners till we're done the other side of these small channels. And then we measure and cut the top piece. And then we put the fastener on once we've locked it all together. That gives you the ability to level across multiple different surfaces. That's the secret to winning this game. When you have two verticals this close together, you don't need fasteners. It's hard enough to get this in, let alone pull it out. That's why we drop it in from the top. Because trying to put it in this way, well, that's almost an impossibility, right? Without breaking it. So it's not going to come out either. Right? Now you can see the wisdom here. It also allows you to be pretty quick because you can do all your multiple cuts first and then bring in your siding. There we go. Now we just bring it down, make sure we go over top of it, lock it, lock it in, lock it in. Here we go. Lots of flexibility. Now we got to see if we're going to need one more sliver or if we're ready to cut our next piece all the way across. Remember, 9 inches is the magic number. And we're measuring from here, right? Well, 5 inches. Okay, so we're looking 5 inches from the bottom. We've got to cut across. Wow. In the interest of time, I'm not going to get too fussy. I'm going to cut one piece of siding all the way across to pick up all of the verticals, okay? Because we're started at the same horizontal line off a laser, we'll be able to finish within one horizontal line, give or take a millimeter or so, right? And we have all this flexibility, so it doesn't matter. That way we can connect all the top with one piece of siding, because it's 11.5 feet. They come 12 feet in the box. And it's going to look absolutely beautiful. You're going to look like a pro. Trust me, pros aren't that patient. They'd cut this thing in half and seam it above the door to give themselves some mercy. But we like to do better work than the pros because we care about our homes more than they do. And they get paid to show up, get done, get the hell out. And you're getting paid by finishing it and be perfect every time. And that's the difference. So now that you understand how this is done, that's enough of the tutorial on the vinyl siding. Let's show you how to finish up with the skirt underneath, because once you know how to do the skirt and the vinyl siding, you can finish any house in the neighborhood. All right. Now when it comes to finishing off underneath, you can see here we got block, we have a crawl space. Obviously we need some airflow, but along this front, we want to make it look finished. And I'm not going to try to put in some kind of facade stone. This is a double wide trailer after all. We don't need to use materials that are $30 a square foot. And so we're going to be returning about 11.5, let's call it. We're going to measure down 11.5. It's right there, it's right there. I appreciate anybody in the siding business who wants to miter the joint. And this is how you cut the joint square. All right, and then you can just fold it inside of itself. Okay, and that looks like garbage, right? But when you miter a joint, you only want to miter one side. Keep the other side square. It fits inside of itself. All right, and if anything, trim back the little piece on the back here so it fits nice, okay? That gives you a good look. Okay, so we're gonna finish that one. We're gonna put that right into that corner, right across here, and then we're gonna wanna finish it just shy of here. Nothing ever has to be exactly the length. Remember, all of this stuff is gonna swell when August comes around. Here's our mark. Maybe a little bit on the short side. It's gonna go inside the other trim anyway, right? Here we go. Now we're going to pinch that, set that in, set our miter where we like it. We're going to put a fastener right here in the middle. Yeah, I'm happy with that. We also want to have a piece of the same material. Hey, oh, cheapers. Ah, going across the top. I'm going to measure by hand here, right in here. Okay. All those sirens in the background make me nervous. It's like, did they find me? When everything is cut square, it can be a problem, so don't be afraid to trim the backside. All right? This is going to be used just as a way to finish the top cut. So our new piece of material is going to go inside here and then down inside of here. I'm going to throw a screw right here. All right? That's a nice clean look, if I do say so myself. The secret is to get a measurement and cut our metal. I'm going to go from the ground to about the middle of the top piece, and that'll give us a measurement that gives us a little bit of flexibility, but some rigidity at the same time. 11 1/4. All right. 11 1/4 it is. Now, just so this makes sense, it comes in a 12-foot piece. I'm going to cut a 3 or 4 foot section. If I'm 11 1/4, let's call it a foot each. I'm going to cut a 4 and a bit foot section so I can get at least 4 pieces out of it. I'll bring it over here where it's manageable, and then we'll demonstrate how to finish this off. I cut this with the snips just to demonstrate. See how the compresses? That causes compressive damage, right? And it may or may not be hidden. So when you're working with this stuff, trying to use snips can be difficult. So when you're using snips, you want to actually cut each surface and change your angle as you go, just to the tip. Come back up, then come across. If you just try to crush through it all, that's what you get. It's a big crushing mess. All right, now, 11 1/4. Boom. I'm going to give you a couple of tips here. One is when you're using a marker, always have your triangle about 1/8 of an inch to the left of the mark you want, because the marker never makes the line where you want it to. It's not a fine pencil. Okay, that's one tip. Second tip is you might want to try the grinder. Now, I know it's aluminum, and this isn't a metal blade, but this is a pretty thin gauge aluminum. You might be surprised the results you get. Perfect every time. Now, soffit pieces like this, or what they're called, they have a tongue and they'll have a groove section. This opens up a little bit, okay? So they lock into each other. So if you want to start with the tongue, you can. Now you see this? Problem, right? Except this is J-trim and it is somewhat flexible. And until we get it all really locked and loaded in here, we'll go down to the deeper spot first. Come back. That's actually easier because it's opening up, right? There we go. We got that installed. Now let's get the height for the next piece. 11 1/2. Yeah, that'll work. All right. 11 1/2, then. And the reason I love it so much is because it doesn't crush. It doesn't curl the ends. It doesn't cause any damage to the product. So it installs so much easier. I'll go down here, drop that in. Yeah, we're gonna have to work this one a little bit. That's all right. There we go. And we come across. Look how easy this is gonna slide into the groove because it's not damaged. Okay, that's it. Now it looks like one piece. Yeah, I know. Oh, what about the very end? That's gonna be tricky, right? You can cheat a little bit with your cut and make it so it just barely fits. You can also really manipulate this. Okay, see this? Take your trims out. All right, manipulate this, slide it in, and then you can pop this all back together again when you're done. Okay, there's lots of ways to finish this off. Now you get all the secrets that you need so that you can finish this up. Here we are ready for the top, okay? This is where it gets tricky, and I want to install my J-trim across the top of the door as well, just to tie in. All right, but instead of doing it here, I'm doing it right here nice and tight, because I want to be able to divert water. I'm going to show you how to do this. What we're going to do is we're going to cut 3/4 of an inch front and back of the same side, bend it over. That way this actually hooks into the side. Okay, we'll do it on both ends. All right, so now you can see this. We'll hook it in there, and we'll hook it in here. We'll add in a couple of screws for good measure, but the point of this is really about water diversion. I'm not really that worried about it in this scenario, but I'm just showing you, so if it's on your house, that's how we lock siding together, okay? Fair enough? I'm gonna leave this floating in case I want to replace this door at some point in the future. They'll be able to just pop this right out, change the door, and then pop it right back in again. C'est la vie. The next piece of siding is one piece, end to end. We have to get a pretty accurate measurement here, -3/8 maybe, so we can have a gap on each side. So, first step here is to get an accurate measurement. And I have learned over the years, if you want an accurate measurement, you want to find something fixed that you can pull against so that your tape is nice and straight. So we're going to measure right from the outside post, and then we're going to subtract the thickness of that post later. I'm using my right hand to just keep nice tension on it. And I'm going to fold this over right onto the inside of that trim. And that number is 129.5 exactly. Sorry, 1/4 exactly. 129.25. So I'm going to cut my siding just a little smaller than 129. Give me that 3/8 so I can split the gap. I'm going to write it down. Look at that. That's how it's done. All right, 129 minus a hair. Now in step one, we're just going to get it in between the J-trim on each end, far above where we need to install this. And once we have it in the trims, somebody doesn't know how to measure. Oh, I forgot to take off the width. Yep, I'm an idiot. There we go. Woo, now we got some wind. Okay, guys. So here's the whole width, right? -3/8. I forgot. Oh, it was on the other side of that post. Let me make my mark. I want to mark right here in the middle of this piece of J-trim. Okay, that's all the flexibility I'm going to need. I measure once and I cut twice. Measure once, cut twice, instead of the other way around. Measure twice, that just means you're an idiot and you don't know how to use a tape measure. That's like the stupidest thing I ever heard in my life. Okay, we got the number, but just in case you were stupid, let's do it again. Now in a scenario like this, I'm going to incorporate a clamp because here's my thumb right on the edge of this trim. Let's take a look at this, right? I'm pushed all the way to the right, and I can slide all the way to the left, right? That's a significant difference. So we wanted to split that difference, clamp it, and now we'll make our marks. Okay, this is really key. Whenever you're making multiple cuts on the same piece of siding, you want to be square to the product, and you want to use a square to draw your lines. For instance, behind this is right on this line. Okay, so there's that line and that line, this part of the profile, right here, where that square is. So I'm going to get right beside it. I'm going to take off a little bit of mercy, and I'm going to make my mark with the square. Same thing here. That's where my edge is on the behind the window trim. I'm going to give myself a little bit of mercy, make my mark, and cut on that. Here's my J-trim. I'm going to be cutting inside of that with a little bit of mercy. Okay. And I'm also going to mark which direction I'm removing material from. Trust me, when you get that on the ground, you're going to want to have a bit of a guide, or you'll end up cutting out the wrong piece, and you'll have to start all over again. That's the inside of the door, edge of the window, that's where I want to cut. And then over here. All right, now we have to measure. Now, remember, all of these are somewhat accordion, okay? So let's start with them a little bit relaxed, as we're gonna cut with two numbers. I'm gonna start with this one somewhat relaxed, and take a measurement from the underside of my trim, underside of the siding, to the rib here. It's 5 5/8. I'm gonna mark that here, 5 5/8. And now, I can mark here to the underside of the rib. I can get it all the way up to 5 and 3/8. So 5 5/8 works here as well. So that makes this different because of this trim. What I want to do, I'll do that one last. I'm going to get these windows done first. 5 3/4, 5 5/8. We can get there. All right. All right, let's see if we can get here with this one. Yeah, it's tight. It's also a little bit out of alignment. Oh yeah, we're good. So we're gonna do 5 5/8 for all of it. But for this door, we're gonna do something a little different now. Now we're gonna stay above the door jamb, knowing I'm gonna have a little more thickness there. I'm more like 5 3/4. So plus a little bit more mercy, I'm gonna go all the way up 5 7/8. I'm actually gonna go to 6 here. Okay, it's not always gonna be perfect and exact. Remember, our ground is on a slope. We try to level it all off, but you have to cut according to how it fits. The key here is to have this piece locked into all 4 of these runs of siding and make sure that it finishes off one horizontal piece. If you don't have the accordion effect, you're gonna have to have a split above the door, and you're gonna have this installed off-center and crooked and weird. You're gonna see a line going like that. It'll scream. Okay, so now we're gonna cut this. We'll put the J-trim back up, and we'll snap this thing in place, and you'll see how nice that look is. We'll cut all of this out. Just a quick note for safety. Guys, take a look at your blade on your grinder, okay? If it isn't perfectly straight, or if it has any cupping or warping, throw it out and get a new wheel. It means you've overheated it or dropped it, and it's this close to breaking off and flying in your face. All right? So every time you pick up this tool, double check. You might have set it down careful. Someone might have come along and kicked it, and then put it back. That is, I don't care if you got your guard on there or not, it's a dangerous tool. If your blade isn't in good shape, that is one flimsy piece of siding. That's all right, we'll have some fun getting it in. Now we're gonna stick this on, right, for good measure. Let's start with over here. And we'll go from above everything and then try to lock it all in place as we go. I am feeling very interested about this. I did not do something right. What did I do wrong? So, yeah. I might have measured something upside down backwards, I think. Trust me, when you get that on the ground, you're going to want to have a bit of a guide or you'll end up cutting out the wrong piece. Then you'll have to start all over again. Starts, and then I can't sit down. All right, I've done something horribly wrong and I can't tell. There's a great learning opportunity. Here's a great learning opportunity. Somewhere along the way, I measured something wrong. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create 2 separate templates by cutting this in half, okay? And then we can identify what's wrong. Oh, this is where everybody wants to film when I make a mistake, right? This is where I'm catching my trim. This is where my depth should be on my J-trim. So that is obviously way off. Okay. If I caught my trim here, I'm still way too high, so I'm going to go minus a good inch. Okay. And that's about the same. So minus 1 inch. Over on this side, same thing. I got to go -1 inch all the way across. It's a rather simplistic mistake. This one's actually okay. Well, this one's actually not terrible. I'm going to just adjust my template 1/4 inch here. Okay, so I'm going to take a brand new piece of siding. I'm going to cut this template, and then I'm going to go and draw it all out again. Cut it again. I mean, what are you going to do? Leave it looking ugly? All right, here we go again for the first time. Right away, that's looking better. So many moving parts. Okay. Well, I'll be darned. That worked. Let's take a look. It's a little dirty, but there you go. Ha ha! See, I knew what I was talking about. I just can't measure. All right, so now we have one piece of siding tying together 2 different walls, right? Started off at laser level, left all the middle pieces floating so you have mercy, and then cut and measure till you get the piece right. That's all. Nice and simple, right? It's basic, but it works. Now when I tie that together, there's going to be nothing to keep me from finishing off the top. I'm going to have to add a couple of vertical posts because I want to have a couple of screw surfaces, and that's going to be no big deal. Okay, wow. Let's see if we can get one more piece in. Yes, we'll get one more full piece in here before we have to go any further. I believe it is 10.5 altogether. Bam, that is exactly one piece of siding to the top. All right, fantastic. All right. I did the same thing as last time here. Lee, did you know that? Ah! Wow. You know, it's getting late. All right. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm basically going to be taking a measurement coming over 4 feet, right, at this point, and then measuring up to the ceiling. So I'm going to go from 1 inch off to whatever that number is. I'm going to take another piece of siding and line up that angle and mark the whole piece. And we'll install the next one. Piece of cake. Ah. All right. Okay, next step in our process for the screened-in porch is to reframe and basically prep. So we have to get rid of all the old screening. Okay. And we're going to show you how to remove this stuff first of all, but then we're going to go through the prep process because I'm going to save all of this aluminum. And I'm going to add another bar through the middle so that we can rescreen this thing. Here we go. For getting rid of it, nice. Just throw the knife in there, cut the spline. Okay, and when you're going to go pry it out, close the blade up so that nothing breaks off in your eyes. All right. There we go. That's it. Now our job is to remove the spline. You know what? And I'm going to save a piece of this because I was in the store the other day and they had 3 or 4 different thicknesses. So this extrusion is sensitive, but the material in the store didn't have anything listed as to how thick the spline needed to be. They just had 4 options laying there. So I'm going to go shopping with this and make sure I pick up the right one. All right. The rest of this, however, is going to be garbage. Okay. Whoa. And if you're lucky, it's that easy. All right, let's see if we can get that. Ah, that one's gonna fight. Let's have a look here. There we go, we got it. There we are. This is amazing. Rescreening is actually gonna be really simple. Can't wait to show you how simple this is. Because once you've got a knife and the screening tool, anybody can rescreen a porch at home by themselves. You don't have to call a pro for this. This is definitely a DIY project. No worries. There we go. But if you're like most people, A, you can't afford a contractor, or B, contractors don't want to waste their time with you. And if you do find a contractor, you're going to find one of these guys who has a system, and that's all they do, okay? Like for bathrooms, there's a company we contacted, I won't say their name, advertising everywhere. A free install special. Installation service is free, but we'll renovate your bathroom. So they're going to rip out your bathroom, put everything back in, plastic, prefab, walk out the door. It's going to cost you $8,000 to $10,000. To redo a bathroom should only cost about $3,000 material. So, if they're giving you a free install and the material's $3,000, why are they still charging $8,000? If that's the environment we're in, all I know is there are hundreds of thousands of homes in North America built between 1930 and now that are still in original condition. If you don't believe me, jump onto Zillow and check it out. All these houses that are for sale, and if all of the houses that are out there need to be remodeled and no one's doing the work, those houses are just going to sit there and rot. And then we're going to really have a housing problem. Or you're going to have to learn how to just adapt your lifestyle to living in someone else's trash. So, if you don't want to live in someone else's trash can, learn how to do things yourself. Buy one of these houses cheap and remodel the darn thing before you move in. Everything you need to learn is right here on this channel. Cheers. So the plan is simple. We're taking the extrusions that we salvaged from the original system here, and we're going to just, well, we're going to use them again. We're going to take them, sand them down, grind them, putty them, whatever we got to do to get them back to good condition. And then we're going to cut them and reinstate them like a mid-wall here, okay? So I've grabbed enough pieces here to do this section. I've got a couple more pieces for this section. Yeah, we're going to just go through that process now, because I hate throwing things out when they're perfectly good. There's not too many opportunities on a job site where you can reuse material. And you might think, oh, well, these extrusions are only like $35 for a piece. You know, that's still a lot of money. I need 8 of them. So a can of paint cost me 15 bucks and a sanding sponge. I think that's a better investment. A little bit of time goes a long way. Yeah, this one's a lot longer than it needs to be. Okay. Well, we're going to use this end. And then this one's longer than it needs to be. So I'm going to use this end. You know, for the purpose of keeping my life simple. I might even just cut it down before I paint. You know, sometimes it might make sense to put everything in brand new. End of the day, you got to consider the housing market, where you live, the value of your property, and what you're trying to get out of it. In this case, it's just a secondary living space to enjoy the fresh air when it's nice outside. The housing values around here are about $100,000. So you got to be careful. It doesn't take a lot of time before you overinvest in a project like this, When I sat down and started doing the budget on this, I ended up with a $50,000 program because I'm used to like a $200,000 or $300,000 house. So I had to dial everything back to try to stay within my 20. This is one of the ways we're doing that. Okay, there we go. I think I'm ready to roll here. Yep, now I need a piece about 54 inches. And this one suffered tragic damage when the golf cart went through the front of it. So we're gonna cut it off and just salvage as much as I can. Now, 54 and this one as well. Oh, good. All right, now we got our pieces. I'm gonna fix up my grinder so I'm gonna grind down my holes and then I'm gonna get them filled. That way we have a surface that we can paint. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna change my blade. This ceramic blade is great for vinyl and metal sheet goods, but for thicker aluminum, you're gonna find that it gets too hot and it melts the pieces on the wheel and then it's no good anymore. So, change the blade. Make sure you're unplugged, obviously. Take the tool that comes with it, stick it in the two holes, counterclockwise. Boom and boom. Grinder blades are universal. So if you have a 4-inch tool, a 4-inch or 4.5-inch blade will work. If it's a 5-inch tool, get a 5-inch blade. All right, there we go. Good to go. It is good for metal and stainless, yay. So it'll handle this no problem. And I'm gonna just grind the surface. Really, the secret is this. Fillers, like caulking, don't work on raised surfaces. You have to have a bowl or something smooth. So you just got to grind this flat before this is useful again. All right, so far I've invested 10 minutes and a $6 blade, and I've saved myself almost 300 bucks. We're gonna grab some crud killer. I have no idea what this is. I'm new in the neighborhood, but wow, that's hard to open. 4 different varieties of crud killer on this shelf at the store where I was at today. All right, here we go. Wow, there's nothing on this for corrosive or anything. I don't have to wear gloves, but you know, don't be stupid. Everybody's got different levels of irritability with their skin and their eyes, so be careful if it bothers you. After all of my years in the trades, I'm bulletproof now, so I don't care. Dunkaroo. Okay. And I am just basically doing a quick surface clean, okay? I'm gonna be painting this with an oil-based paint. And we saw earlier in the video, we used the spray, and that worked great, but that's $10 a can. I'm only gonna get a couple of posts for that. So I thought, you know what? I gotta get a cleaner out here anyway so I can mix it up, so I can clean my siding. I might as well get these things washed down and use a roll-on paint just so that we can show you the other alternatives. Because whenever you're rolling paint, it's a lot cheaper, like dramatically. I think I'm gonna save 100 bucks. Now it's more inconvenient because this stuff is gonna take 24 hours to dry. So you gotta have a place to put an oil paint that you can let dry for 24 hours. As long as you got that, you can save a ton of money. I think what I'm gonna do is set up a garden hose and just rinse all this off. Seems like a fair amount of dirt on this stuff. Well, the crud killer seems to work, Matt. Now, if you're asking me, hey, Jeff, why didn't you grind down all these little holes at the end? It's like, because I don't care. I'm going to have to cut these to size and then add brackets to attach them anyway. So, yeah, there's a certain amount of sludge involved with this, eh? It only has one spray kind of nozzle, eh? All right. Try not to hose down our cameraman. Now, you're going to see there's a bunch of these little clips and stuff. Some of them are installed with Phillips screws, and some of them are installed with flathead screws. They're all rusted out. You know how much I love Phillips screws. So I'm just going to use my grinder. Now, this leads me to think, I did a video, what, 2 years ago? And I talked about the 5 power tools every homeowner should own, right? Chop saw, you can change blades and cut anything. Grinder, you can change blades and cut and grind and sand anything. It's on the list. Go check out that video, because it doesn't matter what you're facing. If you've got those 5 tools, you can get an attachment or a blade and solve every problem you have. Except for not being plugged in. That should work. There we go. That was handy. That was some great TV there. Yeah. Okay, now we're just going to wash down the rest of this so that it's prepped up for tomorrow. I'm going to paint the rest of the trim today, and then hopefully at the end of the day I'll be able to paint the rest of this trim. Just have to wait till everything is dry, but out here in the shade it might take a couple hours. Wow, look at that crud on the ceiling. So in the interest of saving time, guys, what I'm doing is I've still got this damage that I've got to repair, the holes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a 1 coat with the Rust-Oleum enamel paint. It's oil-based, and it takes 24 hours to dry. There's no quick way around it. That's how you do it cheap. If you want to be quick, like I said, use the spray, 10 bucks a can. I'd probably need 5 cans, right? But then at least it dries in 15 minutes. I'm going to do it backwards. I'm going to use the roll-on. This is all about a budget on this job. And then when I'm done, I'm going to fill all my little gaps with this right here. It's a 20-minute drying caulking that's paintable. And then after that, I'll come by and I'll spot check all of my little repairs with this, left over of the can that I did the post with, all right? Piece of cake. And then we should have a nice white, ready to screen surface for tomorrow, and we'll finish the screening as well. The process is this. I'm using this long wand mini roller. Try to stay away from this paint when you're working as much as you can. Open the can with my knife. Now, it says that on the can you should be mixing this thoroughly. So here's the product. I just opened the can, didn't even mix yet. Okay, so they're telling us we need to mix this. I'm just using a little bit of the old floor trimming from inside. Wow, okay, so it's not like it's separated, it's just really thick and chunky in the bottom. All right, here we go. We're gonna pour this out. I'm gonna save a little bit as a cutting can. 3-inch brush. It's too wide to use with this. It'll drive you crazy. All right, so here's a cheat. If your brush is too big, then just cut it down. This is a disposable brush because once we get an oil-based primer or oil-based paint on here, I'm not cleaning this up. All right, so just take your knife and take a good 1/2 inch to 1 inch off. Turn this into a 2-inch brush. 2-inch brushes are designed to go use in those cans. Okay, and if it's a disposable situation, that is going to work perfect every time. All right, here we go. Then we got our brush cut down. Fits in the can really well. When you're painting, the rule is simple. It's less is more. The thing about this is, it's going to need 2 coats. There's just no way around it. Well, honestly, I think I like the way the mini roller goes on a little bit faster with these flat surfaces. So we're just going to cut all of the inside corners and up against the ceiling and roll the rest of this. Obviously, even if I wanted to spray, I can't spray today. It is way too windy. I would get oil spray everywhere. Not bad for first coat. I really hope this dries up in a couple hours so I can get the next coat on before the end of the day. So we're back today. We're going to be taking off our downspouts. Now remember, these are all aluminum. So every one of these, this is a joint, that's a piece, another joint at the bottom. You total all that up, all right? You're about $50 to $60 worth of material. What we're going to use is a half a can of spray paint, $5. We're going to be able to salvage this and reinstall it. But I got to get rid of it for now so that I can get all the details and install the screen. So let me just reach over here. And that is completely rusted out. And that one worked. Okay, all right. So when the screw gets rounded out, it rusts to the point where as soon as you put the bit on it, it just goes to a circle. Now we got no choice but to try to get in here with a pair of pliers and get this loosened off. All right. And if that isn't gonna work, we'll get one more try here. Nope, if that doesn't work, the only option we have is grab the grinder and cut the head of that screw right clean off. It's not gonna interfere with anything. There we go, good as new. Now we're gonna go down to the bottom. Okay, here we go. Now, if you've never seen this before, I think almost every eaves trough in the whole world is installed like this. There's a thin little metal band here that holds it all together. And that is attached to the wall. So, 2 screws at the top, 2 screws at the bottom, boom, instant release. That is just crazy how well that works. Now, remember our design, we've got a screen that comes 4 feet by 100. It's ridiculous. What we're gonna do is we're gonna split this in the middle so there's another bar. Just for safety, really. You know, if you're gonna have a party out here and things get a little out of hand and someone falls over, it's nice to have a bar to run into so they don't fall right through your whole screen. We'll just measure the entire height. We're gonna split it in half. For aesthetics, 77. Let's keep this simple. 35 and 3 is 38. That's plenty, right? Because if it's 4 feet wide, we want to make sure that when we're attaching our screen and spline, we've got a little overhang. We're gonna go 38 just to keep our numbers simple. And we're gonna be installing the extrusion with a bracket like this, okay, on the underside, okay? So when I mark my 38, I'm gonna put it right at the line. This is gonna cover the black mark, and the extrusion will sit above it. So don't freak out that I'm using a black marker on white. Here we go. That's for the camera. 38. Here we are. We'll just put a little mark right there. Okay? That way we can avoid the need for levels. We'll just mark 38 all the way across. There we go. Bam. Now, I'm going to use these. Put that right on my mark. And this is actually going to carry the weight of that extrusion till I can screw it on. It's like having a third pair of hands, right? All right. Now, we're gonna get our measurement across. I'll come over from left to right here for you. And we wanna be exact. We wanna make this as exact as we can so that when we install it, we're pushing the extrusion out of the way to set that in, not scratching the paint up. It might be dry, but curing is another issue. 52 1/8. Okay, so let's grab one of these bad boys. 52 1/8. Make sure the end is square. I'm gonna measure off of here. All right. Just a little bit of a pencil mark. A couple of 2x4 scraps. It's the same thickness as the table. That makes sure I cut square, okay? Yeah. Here's a little tip for you. When you want to be exact, you want to make your mark on your material where the blade's going to contact first. Having a mark at the back, if you're used to your tools, it's not a big deal, but if you're new to DIY, now you can set your blade and see that I'm actually cutting a little bit long. And that is perfect. Now we're going to come over here. We're going to dry fit. Just a little bit of pushing on this allowed me to get it in without any issue. There we go. Wow, that is pretty awesome. And we're going to throw a level on here just to be sure, because they might not have put the bottom in level, but we are in good shape. Beautiful. And you'll notice if I leave this clamp here for just a minute, I can actually measure the next piece and it'll be perfectly seamless right here. No issues. Now, you could measure and install your brackets, but that's a commitment until you've had a chance to get the bar in there and put a level on it. Self-tapping screws. Make sure nothing that's moving is up against any of the metal so it doesn't make a mark. Beautiful. And then we just have to make sure that this rail is perfectly flush, front and back, before we screw up. Perfect every time. So before I put the next bracket on, I am going to measure and cut and install this piece. Wow, this is really fascinating. All these measurements are different. This one's out 2 inches. This one's 54 1/8 and a hair, which is good to know because we're trying to be exact here. Just for a point of reference, when I'm cutting, I like to pull the material away from the blade before I lift. Let the blade stop spinning. The side of the blade here, okay, this is smooth, but the teeth itself, they are extended on each side. So if you cut something flush, okay, now you're up against the blade only. And as you're lifting it, those teeth are grabbing and they can throw a small piece in the air and it can be dangerous. So, be smart. What was my measurement? 38, right? Okay, here we go. Again, 38 was our number, I do believe. Always double check. Yep. Okay, here we go. There's my mark. Here's my bumper pad right on that mark. Locking and loading here. A little bit low. Okay. Here's my rail. And then we're going to come over here. We're going to push and set. Again, trying not to scratch any of the paint. Beautiful. Set at the same height. Now, this is where you got to use your eyeballs. Okay? If it isn't lined up perfect, make it perfect. Remember, no one's using a tool to check to see if it's level. They're using their eyeballs. So you have to take a minute, step back and have a look and go, yeah, that looks right. If it doesn't look right to you, I don't care what the tool says, it's not right. Now we got that in place. We can install the other brackets. Okay. Be careful not to have the bracket sticking out and grabbing the screen when you're done, right? It'll just wear right through that screen. This kind of construction, I'll tell you, it's a lot of fun. It reminds you like a kid working with Lego. It's so simple, right? All right, next. Again, measure. Let's get the next measurement, next cut. 53 7/8. Nice. Weird. You know I cut that, right? Oh. That's not good. I measured on the short side of that angle. This was an angle piece. I almost got burned on that. All right. Okay, now same process. We're looking for level over here. We're all a little bit low. Okay, and because I cut this all really tight, it doesn't need any more support than this. Accept it. Interesting. Okay, We're gonna start over here with the first bracket, and then we'll come back to the middle. Alrighty, how about we keep this from falling over this time, eh? That's my level mark. All right, now, I like that one there. So what I'm gonna do is just make a little mark right here. That's not gonna be an issue. Now, I wanna make sure that my bracket is going right where that pencil mark is. Here we go. Okay. Now we can screw on the top. Make it flush, front to back. And we're all attached. Yes. All right, time to bust out the screen. Okay. So for putting in screens specifically to Florida, okay, everybody down in Florida, you know, you got those no-see-ums. That's literally the name of the bug. I don't know who came up with it, but it's on the packaging right here. I got the screen for it. Right here, no-see-um screen. Now that does not mean privacy. That means there's a tiny little bug that bites that comes out at night. And if you live down here, you know this. You got to get the screen with a small enough hole to keep them out. So, for everybody else, yeah, hit the comment section. Tell me if you got any crazy critters or weird names for bugs in the area where you live. Love to share that information. And tell me how small the screen has got to be, or if even using a screen is a viable option. But if you can keep the no-see-ums out, you can keep anything out. All right? I did take a piece of the spline from the original screen from this extrusion and measured off to be this size, okay? Now there are 3 sizes at the Home Depot, 0.14, 0.12. Those are more for like door screens and window screens, okay? This sucker here is monster thick, all right? So make sure you buy the right spline. You're gonna be incredibly disappointed with your results. If you're not sure, ask somebody who works there. Good luck with that. All right, now, so we're gonna need some of this. We're gonna need some of this, and then we're gonna need this, okay? This is the screen tool. That's just a flat wheel, okay? And that's fine. I like to work with this one. This one has almost like a pulley wheel, okay? So it can sit on a rail. This one pushes in the spline and both sides, and I really enjoy working with that side. You do have to be careful when you're using this though, because the edge of this can actually be kind of sharp. And if you push too hard, you can cut through the screen, all right? So you gotta be careful, and we're gonna demonstrate how to use the tool in just a minute. But first, I need a measurement. The screen here is 54, whatever. We're just gonna go with 5 feet because I'm free cutting it by hand. I wanna give myself a little extra dimension, so I always have overhang. And like I said, we're 4 feet wide on that roll, so we aren't gonna have any issue. We're gonna have lots of overhang. So we'll cut 3 pieces at 5 feet. We'll stick all those in so you get an idea how this goes together. 5 feet on the edge of the concrete. This is all about production at this point. Now that's really hard on the blade. Wow. We'll try that again. That is some tough screen. Woo! Now we got that, we're good to go. I'm going to recommend get a few pieces of the spline, okay? They're gonna be used just to get things started. You know, 8 inches each. This will help you to lock everything in as we're going, okay? Here we are. Now, let's just do one. We'll get comfortable with this mess. Just to create some comfort factor, we're gonna start not on the ladder. My first piece of spline. Obviously, I'm going in this track here. I'm gonna go with a couple inches of overhang. I'm gonna measure right up to the top of this board here. And I'm just going to grab a little bit of thumbtack here. Okay. Get the right piece on. There we go, squish that in. Now this is temporary. Okay, and I made this plenty long. Now, you'll see what happens. As soon as you put it in the spline and you press it in, it tightens everything up because you're shortening the distance by extending across and then in instead of just across, right? All right, so the next step is cut your spline in advance so that it's a little longer than what you need, okay? And here we are. Oh, we're fighting with the wind now too. That's great. That's just great. Now, we're gonna do the entire top, and that's fine now. Don't have to worry about putting pressure on this one. Just nice and slow. Try to run it down the middle of the spline. You don't want to go one side or the other. You'll risk cutting the screen. This is not a race. This is about perfection. Something this simple, you have to take your time. Right till we get to the end. Here, you want to just cut a little bit shy on purpose. But, okay, make a mark, pull it out, and get away from the screen. There we go. Get your tool, finish that off. Okay, that's pretty simple, eh? All right. Now, we're going to do the same with the bottom so that we can create that tension all the way across. Then we can get rid of our temporary pieces and do the sides. What I want to do, best angle, let's trim the top. I want to set this knife just on top of the spline, okay? I'll demonstrate in the empty groove, okay? Okay, we're going to put it on top of the spline on an angle, so I'm cutting against the metal. Okay, and you got a nice clean cut. Make sense? A little bit of surgery here. And then, here we go. There. Use the spline as your cutting edge, and you won't have any excess sticking out. That is how you make it look perfect every time. Now is a great time to take your tool again. Just double check that everything is in there as tight as it can be. Before you walk away, make sure it's absolutely perfect. We're back up closing the last section of wall, guys. This is going to be exciting. It's also a little messed up. You can see that this header here, which is carrying load from these two major posts, it's installed way off center here, off crooked. So I got to build a wall underneath it. There's no way to go around it because I'm using this extrusion for my screen. So we're going to have it come to here, minor adjustment, and then go work our way over here again. We got to work with what you got, right? I'm not tearing apart all of this on this kind of a value versus proposition of labor kind of scenario. I'm not starting from scratch. We're just going to be repairing and moving forward and trying to get what we will call it, an adequate or an acceptable result based on the neighborhood and the market conditions that we're working on here, okay? Now, the slab is wonky. All right, that's fine. The aluminum will bend when I put my Tapcons in. I do have to do a little bit of beefing out. I don't have an extrusion on this side, so I have to add a post here. And then I'm going to put in the center post, and then we're going to just mimic what we have over here. Another post here and here, and I got a roll of the white aluminum to go across the front here, okay? And it comes with these lovely little C channels, all right? So we're going to miter cut that, dress it up, and then screw that on as well. It's called a kick plate down here. So if you go to one of those stores that specialize in mobile home materials, you can go in and ask for kick plate. They'll cut it to measure for you. So bring your number exact, and then they'll give you the little C channel there as well. That gives it a lot of rigidity and something you can screw to. And we're gonna be good. So that will also cover all those sharp edges, right? Which is important. So when you're working and installing, doing your caulking work, you don't slice your fingers open. That's why we use it, okay? It's a safety thing more than anything else. So I'm just going to cut and measure and install, use the L brackets, use the screws. We'll spend some time talking about putting that skirt on, okay, the kick plate. And we'll finish screening this up. And then all I got left to do to finish all this is a couple of pieces of my little trim and put on that door handle, and this project is finished. Woo! I kind of like the idea of having a gap here. When I'm all said and done, we have another video coming up. We're going to be tearing up all this lawn here, and we're going to be putting in a French drain and then some decorative white stone right out to the front. That gives us the ability to move water during times we get heavy rainfall, because it does happen. It's only a few times a year, but when it happens, and we'd rather not have all that water in this lanai. So we're going to do that, and it'll give me an opportunity so that I can have a squeegee. If I do get water from the heavy wind and rain, I can just squeegee it over this corner and drain it out this side. That is my plan. Wow, I have to have a post here no matter what because of the design. Here we go. Yeah, all right, 92 3/4. Let's do the 2 posts, and then we'll just put this in after the fact, and we'll cut the measure to fit. This is one of our salvaged repainted pieces, 92 7/8. My kick plate is 16 inches, so we'll just lay that up there, lay that in there. We're going to install that right there. We're going to keep the offset, and we're going to go from level. So let's just go through this. We're going to pre-drill in a few locations, all right, just to get best results. We're going to be using these monsters. These are 3-inch screw. This will hold these posts together, no difficulty at all. And let's establish our offset. It looks like about 3/4 of an inch. Yeah, right there. Loving it. All right, that's done. Now we need one for the other side. All these bits that fit inside of a impact drill like this, the same size that goes in impact goes into the bit extension. These tiny little bits that come in the case, they all have the same base size, okay? So they're extremely interchangeable, which makes life really simple. Let's find out what our hole is. We're gonna put another vertical support right down the middle. 93, 45, 46 and a half. 46 and a half. That's the center. All right, we're gonna use this as our mark. That's my center, okay? And I'm just gonna slide this on, attach my bracket, and then I'll measure and cut my main support post. Perfect. All righty. Because it's so bright out here, I'm gonna have a hard time using a laser level today. I'm just gonna go check this wall here. That's pretty darn close to perfect. I think I'm just gonna measure off. How about this one? Yeah, it's close. Okay, so 45 and a half. I'm gonna put another L bracket at 45 and a half so I can just set my post into it. You gotta love building like this. You got so much ability to be creative with your process. It's not even funny. Top down, inside out, it all goes together. At the end of the day, these brackets, the entire structure. Now we just gotta cut something to fit the gap. 16 ends up being 16 and a half, 17 plus extrusion. Let's get the measurement, 17 and a half. We're setting our extrusion 17 and a half inches above the ground, but the ground has movement. There's also a lot of mercy here with this, because it's a 2-inch piece. It's 16 plus a trim, 16 and a half-ish, give or take, coming or going. All right, we'll go 17 here, and then we're gonna put it in level after that. 17 or 17 and a half. I already don't like what I'm doing. 17 and a half, okay. Well, that's different. Okay. Oh, if you don't like what you're doing, stop and fix it. Don't keep moving forward if your little alarm is going off. Okay. Now I can get all my hands working again. This is another great system for installing things. Having a cutoff, using it as a spacer, marking a line. Getting these brackets installed before you cut your piece. Nothing wrong with this. I know previously I used clamps, but this works pretty darn good too. All right, now we'll cut this piece exactly 45 and 5/8 and a bit. All right. 45, 5/8 and a bit. 45, 5/8 and a bit. Get that in place. Set the blade on it. Once I'm happy with it, I'll hold it against the fence. There we go. Baby. Loving it. Oops, going the wrong way. That's going to be really nice. That allows me to hold it in place while I install the bracket. All right, time for the skirt. For simplicity, we are going to cut the piece for the bottom. We're gonna actually install it onto the skirt and then place it in. So we want to get all these pieces cut first. Oh, for the love of God. 97. Okay. It's been a long day, and I don't remember how long I asked Matt to have them cut this thing. I like to think I know how to use a measuring tape, but in lieu of today's constant screw-ups, I'm going to double check this before I go and install everything else. 97, eh? This looks like around 8 feet, so that might be right. Well, there's no way in hell they cut this the right length. I mean, I did ask them to cut it for the measurement that I gave them from the inside. They're at least 8 inches over, so much for getting an exact measurement when you go to the store. We're gonna take off a little bit of mercy on each side for the trim. Now I gotta cut this. That's just lovely. Okay, here we go. This is cut to fit now. And the little bit of C-channel that I was talking about, the secret to cutting that is miter the joints, right? Like, look how pretty that is. And cut them about 1/4 inch longer on each side, because you'll never get it perfectly hammered down. Now it's just a matter of grabbing some of these screws and fixing it in place. Like I said, I'm going to seal it with an exterior caulking anyway, Now when you're putting on the screws, always screw through the C-channel. You kill 2 birds with 1 stone that way. We're going to recommend every 16 inches. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, all right? And hit the bell for notifications. We're doing a complete remodel of the entire inside and outside of this project. We're painting the outside, we're doing the bathrooms, we're doing the kitchen, we're doing the flooring. There's a lot to learn, and we're doing it on a $20,000 budget. All the materials in. And then we're gonna sell this thing, just so you get an idea of how much value we added to the house. So, subscribe today and hit the bell for notifications. Cheers.